Hello, everybody. I am Gant Laborde. I am a member of the club New Orleans Toastmasters 234, joined back in 2014. And of course, I'm happy to be a distinguished Toastmaster. I've presented around the world. I present constantly. I actually presented yesterday and the day before in Lafayette. And I'll be presenting in 2 weeks in New Orleans again. And then after that, I'm flying to Poland. So safe to say that I really appreciate what Toastmasters has done for me. I really owe Toastmasters a lot. It's advanced my career, it's made everything wonderful for me. And what I am looking at is sort of sharing some of the techniques and tactics that we've used to build back one club after the pandemic. When I went back to my home club after the pandemic, there were four of us, two virtual, one in person. And we started embarking on bringing the club back to now it's a standing room only in person meeting club. So, because if you don't show up early, you don't get a seat. 24, maybe 26 members now inside a small library. So it's really, really great to see that happen. I know a lot of clubs have been extremely successful during the pandemic, continue to keep their membership up, and they're laughing at my numbers here for 20 plus or something like that. But I did think that there's a lot of great value here. And being asked to talk about membership retention, I thought, hey, let's make this fun. Let's make it applicable to everybody. Let's go ahead and make this a story. So I hope that you enjoy my short presentation today on talking about membership retention techniques. And so this is a little bit more like a workshop style at some points. I would love for you in the chat to go ahead and talk at any point that you like. I will try to pick it up as I'm going, no guarantees. So I want to say one of the things I did in an Atlanta conference is to ask them, what is the most important part of any speech? And then I offered a cash prize for anybody who knew the answer. Unfortunately, to me, somebody actually did know the answer and I had to pony up. But I do ask people in a 60-second window to say, what's the most important part of a speech? And I think the answer, as we all would agree as Toastmasters, is the audience. Because otherwise, it's just practice. Otherwise, you might as well have just sat at home and not said it. The key thing that we are trying to do when we are speaking is to know, understand, and influence our audience. Okay. So the thing that we're trying to do in any speech, I believe, is to actually cause some kind of connection and cause some kind of difference with who it is that we're talking to in the audience. And we're told that when we're doing this, there's the old Toastmasters slash all the way back to Greek philosophers trick on how to give a great speech. And if you've been in Toastmasters for just even a little while, you've heard these three steps over and over and over. The formula for a great speech is, if you can remember it, it's going to be number one, tell them what you're going to say, right? We all know where this is going. Step one, tell them what you're going to say. Step two, say it. And then, of course, don't forget, step three, tell them what you've said. So at this point, some of you are like, yeah, it's supposed to be about membership retention. Thanks so much. Thanks for telling me the same basic three things I've heard over and over and over again. But here's my question to you. We see membership as a piece of Toastmasters in two ways. One, they're the people that we speak to. And two, they are the people that we lead. And in Toastmasters, it's confusing that we have public speaking and we have leadership. And it's Toastmasters that taught me those are two sides of the same coin. So when we're talking about membership retention, we're talking about leadership. All the tricks that we already know that work for speaking also, I think, work fantastic for membership retention. Engage in exciting new members the same way we get people to engage in our speeches. And why is this harder? Why do we not actually see this happen very often? Well, the reason is because when people are in an audience listening to us, we are all on the exact same page. A pause is felt throughout the entire room. But in membership, we're playing a 4D game of chess, not even 3D chess, because each person, when we meet them, that is the point of contact, and that's when the clock starts for them in leading them into membership. But what happens is when they actually connect and they become a member and they go through the system and keeping them involved, that timeline's not the same as the person sitting right next to them. This makes this a much more complicated side of the coin. This makes it much more complicated for us to remember where is this person in their journey. So if you care about audience like you do in a speech, then when you're looking at membership, you're looking at a much more complicated system. And the only way to do this is to work together. Everybody at your club, everybody in membership has to be friendly, kind, and giving so that we can actually pass people through the system to make sure that we are all working together to help each audience member in their journey. So let's apply those three phases like we talked about. I'm going to quote John C. Maxwell. People never care how much you know until they know how much you care. So for step one, we have to show them why it matters. The trick is to serve them. And one thing I found is that people who are in leadership feel like, oh, I want to get my value out of giving a speech. I want to go take this role. I want to take that role. I want to do this. You're the hero. You want to take the ball. The hardest part of leadership is letting that go. It's instead of preparing for your speech and thinking about what you have to say in a moment, you have to think, what is this new person thinking? The empathy is more important than what you have to think about. And that's really hard because when you're about to give a speech, what do we have? Next up syndrome. We're only thinking about what we have to say. It happens all the time. And given different situations, you're affected by it at different levels, especially like contests, things like that. But it's no longer for us anymore. We are serving other people. So, step one, actions. How can we tell them what they are going to see? Tell them what you're going to say. How does that look in actions as a leader? Well, here's a few, and I'd love for you to share some as well if you have some in the chat. But one, tell them what you're going to say as a leader says, make sure all your printed materials and online marketing tells them what to expect when they come to a meeting. Make sure you have a great agenda. Make sure your website actually talks about what the experience is like. How many of you have outdated posts, outdated Facebooks, outdated websites, outdated information? The form says the times start at this time, but by the way, that's not when we start. Well, that's not telling them what you're going to say. We have to make sure that we've aligned in everything we're about to tell them so that they can start to trust us. Two, acknowledge guests quickly. I thought I didn't have to say that one, but so funny to me because we do get stuck in our own heads. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen somebody walk into a room or join a meeting, and the VPM is absolutely busy to the gills trying to figure out how to do something else, not realizing that as a leader, that whatever they're doing is not as important as what that person just came in. We have to show them it's safe. We have to show them it's friendly, and we have to present a high quality space. First impressions matter. So I love that. I think it's really important, but it's so easy to forget, especially when a club is struggling. It's important to remember that those people walking in are the blood and life force of a club coming in and being a long-term member. Another thing, make sure they understand the values of Toastmasters. I love that we start these meetings with a club mission. But how are we saying our club mission? Are we saying it together? Are we calling on somebody? Does it sound rote? Does it sound different? Are we really showing the values of what it is? I saw a meeting the other day where a person really kind of went and reflected on the mission statement afterward, and I loved it. They said, this is what we say, but this is why we say it. And I think that not really hit it home for people, especially when there was a meeting with lots and lots of guests. And then introduce them to other leaders and members who will guide them through their membership process. Tell them what you're going to say. So this is saying, hey, here you go. These are the people you're going to want to talk to. This is who you're going to want to talk to. If it's in virtual, chat at them. Let them know virtually. Say, hey, here's who the people you're going to want to talk to. Here's a great member who had similar questions. Connect them. Part two, phase two of the entire thing. So I start this off with a quote. You can pretend to care, but you can't pretend to show up. Phase two is tell them what you're going to tell them. So you have to actually say the stuff. You actually have to do the work. Lots of times it's easy to sign up for something and then not actually deliver on it. The consistency is key for this. If a follower can't find their role model in group, they're probably going to move on. Actions always speak louder than words. So in member retention, this is the second thing of the same thing. I love this. So what are some good action items here? And feel free, again, if you think of some that I don't mention here, I love to hear them. I'll be happy to add them into the conversation. But here's one. Publicly acknowledge and highlight people's levels along Toastmasters' journey. Let them know that there's an entire system alongside speaking, that they are at level 1, level 2, or that they're working on a particular pathway. Publicly acknowledge so that not only the person you're talking to feels more like a member, but other people understand what membership is other than just talking. 2, run an effective meeting with excellent speeches and feedback, right? Do the meeting. Do a great meeting. When people see a great meeting, they're locked in. 3, make sure you stay on time, explain roles, and demonstrate the Toastmaster structure. This can be a difficult one because sometimes people will feel tired explaining roles. And I see that every so often. I love the re-explanation of roles because it has just a little bit of flavor of each person who explains it. I love seeing demonstrating the actual Toastmaster structure, explaining about the pillars that we have prepared speeches, extemporaneous speeches, and we evaluate speeches, the 3 forward-facing pillars of every single meeting, with the back pillar being that the leaders actually make that whole thing happen and we're practicing our leadership. Reiterating this entire structure for people is so wonderful. And so saying here, speakers should always include a little bit about their journey in the introduction. Yes, I love that. So I love that we're talking about what people's levels are. One of the great things that I love is that we always recognize past leadership in the room. It's such a key aspect to making sure that we take those into our clubs so that people understand this isn't just one time where you get to go give that one speech and then you leave the club. We're not a gym for people to work out to look good on one cruise ship, right? You're here to go ahead and do a lifestyle change. And then number 4, let them experience table topics if you have time and they're up to it. This is if you have a guest and you can let them have table topics. This is an action. I think that this has turned so many people into members because they get up there and they do the thing that they think that would take them months to figure out how to do. But then they're in this supportive and positive learning environment, which they're empowered to develop their communication skills. And we let that environment happen. This is great. Now, what does that mean? This means that we have to keep our kindness. If we show any kind of non-kindness to any other members while we're there, or we have any kind of difficulty between each other, it's going to be difficult for people to say, this is the place where I want to be. So inviting guests to participate in table topics is fantastic. Quality Club, I love all these. The notes on the side, please pull up the chat if you don't see it. It's really wonderful. People are adding great perspectives. And so let's move on to the third part of this conversation, right? Building a relationship is not about transactions. It's about connections. So you tell them what you're going to say, you say it, and then you tell them what you said. What we're looking at is 3 different moments in time. The whole preface of people getting ready, people experiencing it, and then here's a really important part. You got to stick the landing of any presentation that you give. It's the most memorable part. It's the most valuable part. It's the part we take home. So when people are in their journey and they're going to that third part, and you tell them, hey, remember, this is what you saw. This is the lasting connection. This is what we did today. That last part of building that connection. The meeting doesn't make a member. The feeling a person has from that meeting does. And so desire survives the goal. You have to start the fire in people that are going to make them Toastmasters. And you have to go ahead and you have to kindle it well afterward. So step 3, actions. Ask people if they're comfortable away to give remarks about the meeting. I love this. I've seen it done where someone's like, hey, You're a new member. So, and it just puts them on the spot. It doesn't really give them any direction. Please, please give them more structure, especially if this is their first time. We say, I'd love to hear what brought you here today, and I'd really love to hear what you honestly thought about the meeting. And if they stand up, of course they're going to, or if they're saying it in front of everybody, most likely they're going to say the kindest possible things about it. And that consistency builds the seed for them to want to come back and actually do it again because they've said it out loud. It's public, it's effortful, and it is owned. Those people become members. Two, give that person a time bridge. That can be a role, a book, or a video to watch. Okay. Time bridging is the fact that they have something when they leave that meeting that tells them about what they did. Some people have said here that we hand them out, we give them little handouts. Yes. If they are not leaving with some kind of follow up, either physically or with you touching base with them and giving them some kind of value, then it's going to decay shortly afterward. Everybody knows how much fun we have at the party, but then there's the cleanup process, and then sure, it's a little bit more difficult for you to come back. Time bridge with them. Give them something to make sure that they remember and they think about it, and that they're going to report back to you that value. This is the key to building that connection well afterward. Keep track of guests, and talking with them is a job that every leader must do, not just the VPM. I know some people are like, hey, the VPM's not doing their job. That's not a statement any of us should make. Don't say that. Don't say that. It's everybody's job. It's just the VPM's the person who's heading that up. And if everybody's doing it, that's fine. The people are at different states of their journey in leadership. Just like people are at different states of their journey in public speaking, people are at different states in their journey at leadership. So it is great for us to facilitate, show by example, and be that icon of where people can go. Everybody is the VPM. One person has the title and is absolutely joining and leading that role to the best of their capabilities. And another one, this one I recently stole from Glenn. This is a really good one. Be their coffee buddy and don't bring up Toastmasters. They will remind themselves. Haven't seen somebody in a while? See if you can have coffee with them. If you know they're a great member and you wish they could come back, go have coffee with them. Don't bring up Toastmasters. They will bring it up. Thank you, Glenn, for bringing that one. That is a golden nugget right there. So I'd be remiss not to include that in this presentation. So those are the 3 steps. We just did the same thing we always do. We already know how to do this in speaking. And the funny part is, I think that we just need to sit down and think about if you're having any membership retention difficulties, think about how you can apply the fantastic things that we have in speaking to the same thing we can have for our membership. Because engaging the audience for a moment and engaging the audience over months are the same exact tricks. And I think that that's a wonderful way of looking at it. If anybody wants to do some workshopping, talking about tactics, there's plenty of wonderful information as well in the chat. And I really appreciate the wisdom of the entire district leadership adding to that. And with that, I think I am exactly on time. Thank you so much.